She's traveled tens of thousands of miles, building a grassroots army across Texas. Millions of dollars raised, 56,000 donors. MJ Hegar for Senate, the leader Texas needs now more than ever. She holds the most promise for voters tired of the failing DC politics. Her military experience makes her the fighter Democrats need. A disruptor who can bring the fight, and a unifier who can reach across the aisle to get things done. And as MJ kicks into gear, Texas does too. Voter registration to 16.4 million despite the pandemic. And Texas is moving towards Democrats in the ratings.
She's ready to fight in Washington.
MJ Hegar has been the top fundraiser by a relatively healthy margin.
It is a different race. She has a good story, and I think it makes for a compelling race in 2020.
One of the top fundraisers in the state.
Wait. Hold on. You didn't think I was going to let John off that easy, did you?
Then there's John Cornyn with an approval rating underwater.
He's been sort of an invisible man in Washington.
We see some favorability ratings that don't look so good. You're actually lower than President Trump, the governor, and Ted Cruz.
And the coronavirus?
Well, I think China is to blame because the culture where people eat bats and snakes and dogs and things like that.
The president has, I think, led well.
If you don't have any symptoms of the coronavirus, there's not a great reason to get tested. No one under the age of 20 has died of the coronavirus. That we still don't know whether children can get it and transmit it to others.
That's ridiculous.
Well, welcome to the general election, John. A brutal Texas re-election battle. Your toughest race yet in a changing Texas, and your last.
Are you concerned at all with all this talk about Texas turning blue?
Well, I sure am.
Saddle up, Texas, because the Senate race is in full swing.
Texas is the biggest battleground state.
And in 2020,
we have the opportunity to turn our state blue
up and down the ballot.
We have the opportunity to expand access to affordable health care, finance our public schools, strengthen our economy, and take meaningful action on gun violence. There's so much more in the United States Senate.
We have the opportunity to pave the way towards a more sustainable future at the Texas Railroad Commission.
We have the opportunity
to elect judges
and the justices
who will restore fairness, equality,
and balance in our courts.
We have the opportunity to shape the political future of Texas
and repair the broken systems that disenfranchise working families in our great state.
We have the opportunity to ensure that Texans in positions of power
embrace empathy,
open minds,
and swing open the doors of possibility.
By working together
and uniting behind our shared vision of a more inclusive world,
we will win back our state.
We will win because we have to.
We have to put an end to the hate, the lack of access, and the suffering.
We have to deliver on the fair shot that every Texan deserves.
Our cause,
our movement,
is about the restoration of justice and the expansion of opportunity.
None of this can be accomplished unless we work together.
In order to bring lasting change to Texas,
we must work alongside every down ballot candidate, every activist, and every Texas Democrat
to continue building the largest democratic movement our state has ever seen.
We're asking you to be a part of this historic fight.
Together, we will create a Texas that we can all believe and thrive in.
Together, we will save Texas and in turn, save the entire country.
Join us.
Join us. John, we need to talk. It's just not working out.
Senator Cornyn, you misled us on the coronavirus.
You voted against funding for masks and ventilators.
And you're still trying to take away protections for people with pre-existing conditions.
It's not us, Senator.
It's you.
You won't fight for us.
And we found someone who will.
I'm MJ Hegar, and I approved this message because 18 years
Hello and welcome everyone. We are on the precipice of historic change in Texas. I am Dr. Reagan Flowers, the moderator this evening. Over the course of my career, I have secured many victories as a Black woman. One of the things that inspires me most is the passion that Black folks harness. We refuse to be shut out, we fight for change, and we inspire hope. No matter your town, city, or state, Black folks share a kindred spirit. There are more than 2.4 million eligible Black voters in Texas. We know the power of our vote. We proudly profess that we are not a monolith. And when we commit to a candidate, or in this case, a party willing to fight for equality, voting rights, and social justice, you can count on us. I am so glad to be here with all of you on this great day. And we have an amazing lineup of candidates across this great state of Texas. And where I would like to begin is I want to bring forward Sarita Fontanesi, and I would like for her to bring greetings and just tell us how important the Black vote is for us here in Texas and across America.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's always exciting to get to talk about the incredible work that is going on across Texas. Texas is officially a toss-up state. We knew it, but now everybody else knows it, which is very exciting. We've said it before, Texas isn't a Republican state, it's a non-voting state. And this year, folks are turning out in record numbers, especially within the Black community, which is truly incredible. Black folks are the backbone of the Democratic Party, and they continue to show up year after year to stand up for democracy. And this year, we're so excited to have so many incredible Black candidates up and down the ballot, all the way from the top of the ticket the whole way down, and getting to highlight them and hear from them and the work that they're doing to save seats, to flip seats, and in local races as well, some of our judicial candidates. So it's truly been an honor to work here in Texas this year in 2020 for this incredible election that we're getting ready for. And I'm really excited to get to hear from our candidates that are visiting us, and of course, MJ Hegar, who really has been doing a lot of work to make sure that she's not just listening to Black folks, but really hearing what we're saying, what we're needing, and preparing herself to make change when she is elected. So again, thank you so much for having me here tonight, and I turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Sarita. Exciting times. We are so energized. It is just infectious. And I think as every day goes, I'm just more and more energized as I'm driving around the city and seeing all of the signs and just the celebration and showcase of where people stand on the issues. And so this is a very exciting time. And so with that, I would like to bring forward someone who's been stemming the divide, being an advocate for veterans, projecting the voice of the unheard, being a loving mother and spouse, while standing in the gap for countless others, which has, reassured her that she can have a profound effect on the lives of many people through her leadership. And she's also come to realize that given all that she is doing, she is built to take on more and do more. And with that, I present to you all Texas House District 129 candidate, Kayla Alex.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I tell you, this journey has been a wonderful experience, meeting so many wonderful people, being able to take what I do locally at a broader scale, helping those who feel like they don't have a voice, especially our men and women of color, our Black men and women who have served abroad, who have served proudly and boldly, fighting for this great nation, and to come home and to have disadvantages when they try to apply for word transition out of the military, seeking benefits, all of the struggles that they experience. It has been a huge, huge gap and challenge for them. One of the things that I will fight for is to make sure that every Texas Workforce Commission has a veteran service officer there representing our veterans as they transition out of the military and back to civilian workforce. To be able to have someone to understand their needs, understand their roles when they served in the military, and help them transition the terminologies and what their job titles and roles were in the military into something that it would help them obtain great careers outside of the military. Another passion of mine, I go back to impoverished schools and I mentor students in the area of STEM. I'm also on the board of Math, Making Awesome Things Happen. And what we do, we provide math camp for free for underprivileged students of color. We help them achieve goals of ensuring that their assessment scores in math is risen from up to 30%. We have the data and the analysis to show that their scores are rising upward bound, and so that they are able to beat the test scores when they go to college. A lot of them finish from public schools and they have to take remedial math when they go to college. And so what we do is we assist them with those scores. And the next is fighting for healthcare expansion. And that's another issue. I believe that if all Texans have adequate healthcare, that will help alleviate a lot of the COVID-19 cases that we see in our community. So that's just a little bit about me and my platform and who I am and what I represent. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for taking the time out to be with us. I know that you all are so busy out here on the campaign trail, and there's just so much work to do, and we're at the final stretch, right? And you're exhausted. But you've got to dig deep, right? And you've got to just pull from within more than you even knew you had to pull, right?
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you want voters to know that they could be doing? I can say I'm more engaged and involved this election cycle than ever before. I'm doing a little bit of everything, but is there something that if someone's sitting at home, something that they can do that could just really help push out the vote, get people even more activated, and so that we can, soar to this 2.4 million votes?
Yes, talk to everyone you know. If you go to Starbucks, if you go to Subway, if you go to the grocery store, talk to people, be approachable so that they know that you care. If you've already voted, contact family members and friends, even people you haven't talked with in a long time. They will be glad to hear from you, one. And then you can spark up those conversations and encourage them and tell them why that this election is one of our most important elections in history. Our democracy is at stake. And, this has been a revolutionary campaign. And I tell you what, talking to so many people and you never know what they may be going through, and just you taking the time out of your schedule to reach out makes all the difference.
That's awesome. And, why not let voting be the reason to reach out? If you hadn't spoken to someone in some time, and when you said that, I'm like, I got a few folks that I probably haven't called in some time. This will be a good time to reach out and follow up and really about voting. But something that came to my mind this election cycle, I have always focused on local, like in my city and in my town. But we have a vast network and we need people voting across the country. And so this has been my first year where I've actually been reaching out to folks, friends and family who are in other cities saying, hey, did you vote? Or what are you doing? And asking them to donate and support candidates. So I don't know why I was limited in that thinking. But this year it just opened up, that everybody has to vote, Reagan. So you can talk to people across even my friends living abroad, I have opened up so we can sometimes put ourselves in a box, which is why I was, wanting you to share, what else can we do? Because sometimes we box ourselves in, not intentionally, not realizing that we can do more.
Yes, that is very true. I attended Thinking Peace and Nonviolence at the University of Rhode Island, and I have a lot of friends that attended that institution for that program. And so I've reached out to them. Some of them are running in their own states. And University of Rhode Island, we've helped each other, phone bank, text bank. It's wonderful. There are many veterans who are expats who are living abroad, and they are, we video chat, and they're mailing in their absentee ballots. And that's a wonderful thing. And then I have family all up and down the state of Texas, and it does my heart so good to see them out voting. So yes, you made an excellent point.
Awesome. Well, I thank you for your time and just for you sharing, and of course, Godspeed in your race, and wishing you tremendous success. And just thank you so much for putting yourself forward for service for us all. We really appreciate you. Well, I tell you, this is always awesome and, very spirited and energizing when you're speaking to the candidates and when they can still smile and show up and give you their very best while out here campaigning 24/7 and doing the work the hard, heavy work to get into the seat so that they can do, even harder work for us all to just make life better. So we really appreciate you. And with that, I want to bring on someone who I've created an equation for. I've created this equation after, reading and learning about this young man. I'm going to call him a young man. And so I read about him and said, what an amazing, incredible story. What an amazing journey. And so my equation I came up with, and I guess that's the science in me. It's talent plus courage plus passion plus integrity plus commitment plus generosity equals the enormous heart of the too young to be retired NBA player Jason Collins. He has those characteristics that we wish we could all see in the leader of our free world. Jason spent 13 years in the NBA before retiring and is serving on President Obama's Council on Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition. He remains active as an NBA Cares ambassador, and I am glad to welcome him this evening. But we will also seize this opportunity, I must, to express our heartfelt expressions to those in California who are still reeling from the devastating effects of the wildfires. And so with that, I'd like to welcome Jason Collins.
Hi, everyone. And that just, when you're talking about the wildfires, tomorrow is National First Responders Day. And I did a little video for the NBA to give a shout out and thank you to all the national first responders. And in California, our firefighters are superheroes. They keep us safe, and it's been a battle for the past couple months, and we still have at least 2 to 3 more months of fire season. We get those Santa Ana winds kicking in, and it's dangerous out there. And I just shout out to all the first responders, and which also leads me to another reason why I'm so active and using my voice, my platform, is because I had COVID earlier. I had a COVID in the spring, and to all of our medical first responders, thank you. I had to go to the hospital. As you said, I'm a young man. At times, my body doesn't feel like I'm a young man, but I had some heart issues, and I ended up going to the ER. I thought I was having a heart attack, and they told me that it was, this is what happens when the virus is peaking, your tightness in the chest. And but one thing that struck me when I was going through, and this is the sickest that I've ever been in my life, was normally I'm used to turning on the news, and this is in end of March when I got sick, and seeing sort of leadership and guidance, and there was none of that. You see the current administration, which we know now that they were telling us lies. And it was just so frustrating to see and to hear, which is, another reason. And then, and it's on down the line where it's not just the administration, but it's those people who are propping them up, like Senator Cornyn was from Texas. And my partner, unfortunately, I gave my partner COVID, and he's a resident of Texas and has a house here in Austin, which is why I'm here in Austin right now. We split our time in between Los Angeles and Austin. And every time I come to Texas, especially in Austin, so we just celebrated our 7th anniversary. And the first time that I came to Austin, I was like, is this Texas? Like, is this, it was so just, it was just that Blue Haven. And now to see like the Blue Haven has spread across to so many different parts of Texas. And that we have a real opportunity of turning Texas blue. And so that's why I'm doing everything I can to help turn Texas blue. Another reason why I'm on this call is because of my partner being here in Texas. I am now involved in Texas politics, and I saw the debate where MJ absolutely destroyed Cornyn. It was so cool. And I grew up in a family with extremely strong women. So anytime I see a woman who just uses her voice and is no shrinking violet, like I'm reminded of my grandmother, my mom, my aunt, and MJ is just right in that category, right in that lane of, a strong Texas woman. And I was, okay, who is and like he was, and my partner was telling me about MJ, and after watching that debate, I was like, ooh, okay, yes. It was awesome. It was absolutely awesome and inspiring to see. And then I saw another Zoom meeting that she did for a friend of mine, Jamie Patrickoff in Los Angeles. And again, she is razor sharp and speaks to so many different people from so many different walks of life that we all have those common threads. No matter where we come from in our walks of life, we have those common threads that unite us. And MJ speaks to so many different of those common threads that unite us, and just rallies and inspires. And I wish she was running in California, because I would do everything I could get to. I want her to be my senator. But so again, just this election means so much. Up and down the ballot, obviously with the national and the presidency, but then up and down the ballot, MJ on down the line, whatever we can do, because we see what's happening with the Senate. Mitch, they pack their bags and they're going back home. They put in, Amy Coney Barrett and basically pack their bags and have gone home. And it's shocking. It's appalling. The House has passed legislation for COVID relief for so many Americans. And they did that, earlier in the summer. And Mitch has been sitting on it for months and continues to sit on it and has packed his bags and gone back to Kentucky. And that's why we need senators like MJ in there to use their voice and the votes to make sure that all Americans get the relief and help that they need, and not just those in a privileged position. So I will finish by saying thank you to everyone, all the volunteers, all the helpers, everybody who is trying to keep our democracy going. All the people who have waited in long lines, who have exercised their right to vote. Being an African American, I remember hearing stories from my grandmother who grew up in upstate Louisiana. This is rural Louisiana, where Jim Crow law, she grew up in segregated South, Jim Crow laws, and it was so difficult for her to vote, which is why part of the reason why she moved the family out to California. But hearing those stories of the sacrifice, and people have died for our right to vote. So I do everything I can to honor their memory, honor their legacy, and encourage all of us to reach out into our circle. I say reach out to 3 people, but at least 3 people. Why not 10? Family members, friends. Make sure that they have voted. If they haven't, if they need a ride to the polls, if they can vote early, please do that. Everything we can to make sure that we are honoring those people who have sacrificed so much so that we have this right to vote.
Jason.
And I'm sorry for talking for so long.
No.
I'm just so energized and fired up, and I voted early, and now it's like I got to do everything I can to make sure everybody else stays energized. And I know all of us here are energized, and we just keep that feeding off of that energy from each other and inspiring each other to keep going and get those votes.
Oh, that's it. That is what it's all about. And it was so hard for me to be on mute because I wanted to jump in and say, hey, man, you're right. I love it. Yes. So I'm energized from you, and we have to have this. I mean, this has been, an all-in election cycle. I feel everyone is connected. Just hearing you, and, God bless you. I mean, you have survived COVID. I mean, what a blessing. I don't know, if there's still some lingering effects there, but you're with us still, and we're happy and thankful for that,
Yeah, and I'm also really proud of seeing that my NBA and WNBA brothers and sisters lead the sports world into using their platform. We saw with the Milwaukee Bucks after the Jacob Blake shooting. It pushed the NBA, WNBA, and then it spread to Major League Baseball. Naomi Osaka in professional tennis. My queen, I'm a Venus and Serena, but I got my new queens coming up behind them with Naomi and Coco Gauff also using her platform as well. So it's really cool to see the sports world recognize that we are more than just athletes, that we have a platform that we can push our society in ways. And we see LeBron James, get the owners on board to have just about every single arena in the NBA as now a polling site and locations. And it's, in California, it's pretty cool to say like, hey, I voted at Staples Center or San Antonio at SBC. It's really cool to see the sports world come together and use their platform. And additionally, we have players in the past who haven't participated in voting. And look, everybody has to start from where you are. There's no shame in, okay, that was the past, but okay, 2020, what's your plan? What are you doing? Are you registered? Are you going to vote? We have Shaquille O'Neal, one of the biggest stars in the NBA, Hall of Famer, who never participated. He never voted in his lifetime. And in this election in 2020, this is the first time that he's voting. And that speaks to so many other people who are joining him and voting for the first time, and no matter the age. You just start where you are and use your voice, use your power. And whether you are 18 years old to Shaq, who I believe is 48. But you just start where you are. In 2020, this is, like you said before, all hands on deck. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Jason Collins. Start where you are. That's a great way for us to segue. Thank you so much for being here with us and inspiring us and keeping this awesome energy going. Our next candidate here is pretty dynamic. I've had the pleasure of engaging and supporting and doing what I can. To effectively spring into action, you must first be able to listen. To genuinely care, you must demonstrate thoughtfulness. To best represent your constituents, you must be committed to doing the work necessary to bring about the change your voters want and need. That is what you get when you vote for U.S. Texas District 14 House candidate Adrienne Bell, whom I'm glad to welcome. Adrienne, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be a part. I tell you, this is a great day in Texas because we are now a swing state and we have a lot to be celebrating.
Yes, we do. We have so much to celebrate, Adrienne. So tell the listeners, how important is the Black vote this election cycle?
Well, I tell you what has been going on is the Black vote. In District 14, there is 42% minority. And with such a huge minority population, the Black vote, we talk about Jefferson County, is huge. And so our victory is going to come through the hands of African-American voters. We have been seeing an increase of African-American voters all across our district. And I think it's amazing that Jason was just talking about first-time voters. I have seen stories of those who are 70s, in their 80s, even in their 90s, who are first-time voters. And we have so many unknown voters percentage-wise when we look at numbers. And just to think someone is in their 90s and this is their first time voting because of the historical and the urgency in this election. And so African-American voters are turning out. We always turn out. We are turning out in higher numbers, but we are dependable base and we always turn out. And so I am excited to be an African-American on this ballot and being able to be the first African-American woman to ever represent Texas District 14.
So awesome. Everybody is so energized. I can see it on your face and I can feel it, as I can feel it with Jason and with Kayla. I mean, it is truly electrifying out here. And you're right. We are out here voting and we are doing our part. And I can say I'm so proud. I feel this sense of pride, because I've spent a large part of my voting life of hearing people say, well, you're complaining, but you're not getting out to vote. So don't complain, right. You're not doing your part. But I feel like this election cycle, we're doing our part. We are reaching out and, as Jason was describing, even what you see our NBA players, our WNBA players, our professional golfers and our tennis players, they're using their platform and they're using it in a way that we've never seen before. We haven't thought of, and then they're taking it to that real game changer level where they're getting to the owners, they're getting to the CEOs and they're saying, you got to do more. You've got to do better. We're not just accepting the lip service anymore. Right. We're saying you got to show up with something. You can't just tell us what you're going to do. We want to see something. We want to see it right now. I mean, are you getting that same feeling?
Yes, it is a sense of urgency. When you talk about our sports players, look at the amount of NBA players that are African Americans. How can they just sit on the sidelines while our country's democracy is blowing up in flames and not do anything? I am so proud to see them standing up. It is so good to see, especially when you look into Harris County. You see we have huge sports arenas in Harris County that are being used as voting centers. That is a huge thing. When Governor Abbott sought to suppress the votes, we showed him, you tell us we can't do it, we're going to show you we can do it. And we started voting, lining up, and we've been voting ever since. So you keep pressing us down, we're going to keep rising up. And we are tired of this Trump administration and tired of the oppression, tired of the systemic racism, tired of being taken for granted. We just tired. And people are letting their voices be known and being heard. And I am so excited to see, because we've been working hard in Texas to organize it. Texas is a big old state and it's hard to organize it. And when you start seeing infrastructure, you start seeing people come together, you start seeing people making those phone calls, still going out and doing literature drops, donating, talking to their friends. I tell you now, it's the time to go get Bubba and Ray and Junebug, all your cousins, get them together to go vote. Now is the time to do it. They've never done it. That's okay. Take them with you. But go get Bubba, go get Ray, and let's go win Texas for our democracy. We got to do it this time. We got to do it.
We do. We have to. And, I just got to ask you one more thing. When you're saying get Ray, get Bubba, get everyone, bring them out. I want to talk about how easy they've made it to vote now, because in this space of COVID, it's really forced us to really use technology to get out of the box we boxed ourselves in and just be more innovative in how we do things. And I was so excited excited and so surprised because I guess I missed the headline, but I went out and voted, day one. I was out there, 7 a.m., wanting to cast my vote, first. And I saw the drive-through voting lanes. What are your thoughts about that? I was so excited to see that.
Well, we've been able to, like if you were disabled, you could go to a voting location and someone will bring a voting machine out to you. That capability has been there. What Chris Hollins has done in Harris County is taking it to another level, to where you are now seeing 24-hour voting in Houston. I grew up in Houston. I grew up on the south side of Houston, so Houston is my hometown. I teach in Houston. I'm running in Brazoria County, Jefferson County, and Galveston County. But what we've seen Chris Hollins do is take it to another level. So now you got the drive-through voting. Now you had them filing suit against Harris County because y'all doing too much. Y'all doing too much to help people to vote. Y'all got to stop that. And they could not shut it down. I love it. So we can be innovative. We can think out of the box. We should be making it easier for people to vote, not harder. Texas is one of these states where you have to receive training and be a registrar in order to register voters. A lot of states are like that. That's another way of suppression. You can't just go online and register to vote in Texas. Well, we got to change that. We got to have folks in office who are innovative, who are bold thinkers, who don't just stop and know and say, what can we do? How can we use technology to move Texas forward? Voting is one way. Changing the systems of voting is one way we can use improved technology that we now have. COVID has made us realize we got to do things differently, and we got to use the systems that we have in order to succeed.
Adrienne Bell, thank you. Wishing you also continued success in your journey to a victory. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening. And it's my pleasure now to bring to you someone who is also pretty remarkable. Like I said, I'm saying that about everyone. Everyone is so remarkable. I'm getting people energized to not just tell you what their needs are and what their issues are, but to fight alongside you is not a small feat. Real people want real results. Not another study, not another data chart. People want to experience and visualize the value of great leadership in Congress. And this is why North Texas voters are empowered and standing alongside Colin Allred, who represents the 32nd Congressional District of Texas. Congressman Colin Allred, welcome.
Thank you, Reagan. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Well, I have to say, y'all kept talking about athletes and you kept naming NBA players and you're naming all kinds. You didn't give football players any credit. I mean,
those guys. Yes, my bad. I'm going to blame Jason for that.
Yeah, I blame Jason too, but.
Sorry.
Good to see you. But, listen, football players, a lot of this started in the NFL. And, there's been a lot of personal attacks, from this president on NFL players and calling them SOBs and all kinds of things and saying they should be thrown out. And, I played with some of these guys. I know some of these guys, some of them were my friends and teammates. And, Jason, we try to, do good work in our communities as professional athletes. We care, we have families. These are folks who are risking their careers to stand up. And it is the right thing to do, of course, but it's also true that in America, protesting is always going to be uncomfortable. And we don't have to agree with someone's protest, but I think we should all agree as Americans about their right to protest. And that's, and now, of course, we get to take that protest and put it in the ballot box. And that's the most important thing about this final week here.
That is so true. Well, Colin, I've been itching to ask you this question. So I'm so glad to be here with you today. So you had an outstanding victory in 2018. Just outstanding. What do you think is going to take for us to turn Texas blue in 2020?
Well, listen, I think what we have to see ourselves as is not having an ideological battle, right? What we're trying to do here is really, this is not a right versus left fight, not in this election. This is right versus wrong. Mm-hmm. And so anybody who wants to be on the side of what's right is welcome. And that means if you were, you voted for Republicans in the past, but you don't see yourself represented in this version of that party anymore, you're welcome. If you're an independent who has voted, every which way or hasn't been voting, you're welcome. Certainly, of course, Democrats who've been involved, who've been on the ground working, you're certainly welcome. But everybody is welcome for us here in Texas. And we can't turn anybody away because the work is too important, and because this election is too important, and because, so much of our future rides on what's happening here. And so, we're going to have, we're the Big Ten party now. And we're going to have some disagreements kind of within, to use a football term, the 40-yard lines, right? But that's okay. That's natural. That's normal. That's democracy. But to have a Big Tent and to welcome everybody in, that's also how you win elections. And ultimately, that's what we're trying to do here, is to turn this energy that we're seeing, to turn the intensity that we know is out there into elected officials, to responses at the ballot box that actually change laws, change policies, deliver real substantive change in DC, in Austin, in your city councils. That's what this is all about.
So true. This word democracy, we got to get back to that. We've got to welcome everyone. And we've learned a lot, I would say, as Americans, these 4 years in our experience, and truly appreciating what democracy really is, what we want it to be, what we want it to look like, and how we all want to be welcomed in. And so as we're, going to usher in this victory that I'm claiming for us all, how do you think we get everyone, or as many as we can, to really to welcome the new change and to understand that they are part of it? It's not a if, and, then, or but. This is our democracy. It's our country. So what are you? Because I think it's going to be a huge hurdle, and it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Well, President Obama used to always tell us that democracy is not a spectator sport, that right. We all have to be involved. And, and I heard Jason talking about, folks who gave their lives for us to vote and for us to have the right to vote. And I think about, kind of the place that we're in right now, which is one that I think is a very, very dark place. With what happened yesterday, just go to what happened yesterday with the swearing in of a Supreme Court justice 8 days before an election. And then she goes immediately to the White House to do an event with Clarence Thomas and with Donald Trump to be sworn in there. Completely, I think, violating the idea of judicial independence, by the way, which is, completely, just against that idea. But Clarence Thomas is there. He replaced Thurgood Marshall, who he's worked to undo so much of Thurgood Marshall's great work. And now she's being sworn in, I think, in many ways to undo a lot of what Ruth Bader Ginsburg did. And you can say, well, this is a dark moment for us. But, in the Congressional Black Caucus, we have a bunch of giants. And one of them is here with us tonight, Eddie Bernice Johnson.
That's right.
So we lost one of our giants earlier this year. And I think about Mr. John Lewis all the time, particularly now, because this does seem really dark right now. But I think about what he did and what he did throughout the 60s, but particularly in 1968. And I want to just talk about this really quickly, Reagan. I know I'll tie it all back together.
Yeah, it's 2020. Okay, go ahead.
Because in 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated earlier in the year. A young John Lewis is working on Robert Kennedy's campaign for president. He's ready to make Robert Kennedy the next president of the United States. He's excited. The future is ahead of them. Camelot is coming back. Robert Kennedy goes to California. He wins the California primary. And then he's assassinated in a hotel room or in a hotel kitchen. And John Lewis is up in his hotel room just bawling his eyes out. And he's sitting there, and I talked to him about this. And I said, Mr. Lewis, what was that like? That must have been the worst year, that you've ever experienced. And later that year, Richard Nixon is elected president. The whole fate of our country changes in many ways. And he said, yeah, that was a tough year. He said, but this election is more important even than that one. He said, this was the most important election in American history. And we have so many more tools at our disposal right now than young John Lewis did in 1968. There is no one, actively, they're trying. I was a voting rights lawyer before I came to Congress. I know all about the restrictions, but there's no one who's going to prevent us actively if we do everything we need to do from voting. There was then.
Yes.
There was no Congressional Black Caucus in 1968. It hadn't been created yet. There weren't 55 members of the Congressional Black Caucus the way there are now. There weren't, great candidates like Ms. Bell, who was just speaking, or MJ Hegar, who's running for Senate, who's going to stand up for African-American rights here in Texas when she gets elected. We didn't have any of these tools at his disposal back in 1968. We have so much more at our disposal, despite how dark this moment is. And so we have to take advantage of this and understand that this democracy only functions if we're involved. And this is, for us, in many ways, in the African-American community here in Texas, we're literally preaching to the choir because we are voting, right? But
we're out here strong. We are.
We are. And that's great, but we can get even more out of it because we understand that what's happening in this country, as I said earlier, this is not right and left. This is just right and wrong. What's happening right now is wrong. 220,000 Americans dead, 12 million jobs lost, and it hasn't been evenly felt, the pain. It's been disproportionately impacting communities of color, disproportionately impacting our community. And so this is an election for us to vote for our lives and to understand that we've had folks who came before us who had greater hurdles in front of them and fewer tools at their disposal, and they overcame it, and we can too.
Amen. Thank you so much, Congressman Allred. And thank you so much for joining us, for sharing with us, and for reminding us that democracy is not a spectator sport. We have got to get out there and do our part. Thank you. And I have the privilege to now introduce someone that I've had to, I guess I've been so blessed and so fortunate to serve at her request as the chairwoman of the Congressional Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. And I look forward to continuing to graciously give her my time whenever she calls. You will find no better champion or advocate for STEM, public education, affordable and quality healthcare, innovation, equity, and access opportunities. She leads with a soft and mighty voice. She is a fighter for us all, and her congressional record speaks for itself. There is no greater joy this day than to yield to the gentle lady representing the Texas 30th Congressional District, Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm so delighted to see all these young, energetic people that will help us make sure that our future is secure. It is a pleasure to join all of the candidates. I see the enthusiasm. I'm so delighted to see all of them, and I wish all of them well. And I'm going to say good luck because I think we're going to have a great victory. I wish I could brag about mine. I haven't done very much, but I have worked for this ticket, and I have worked for MJ Hegar a little bit. I'm running for my 15th and final term, and I'm delighted to be able to admit that, and delighted to see all of these bright young people that are ready to step right in. Let me first greet our athletes. Nothing is more encouraging to see that we have young men who can be professional athletes and still encourage young people to be something other than an athlete, because we know that life ends fairly early in life and there's plenty more life to offer. And so let me say that I'm delighted to see that both of you out on the trail working for yourself and working for the candidates. I really want to see MJ Hegar win because we need a strong senator from Texas that we can depend on. I have worked with Corning ever since he's been in the U.S. Senate, and I'm not going to go any further because I'll get mad talking about it, but I'm ready for a replacement. Just as others have said, it is our day. It is time for more democracy, more fairness and justice, and nobody will bring it any better than our candidates who have lived a life in this country. And so with Hegar, I think that she has been around a bit. She has admitted to having looked at the other party. She has ended up in the best party. Her positions I really do agree with, to rebuild the economy and to look out for health care and especially pre-existing conditions. But more importantly, she will work to make sure that our judiciary does not continue to be hacked at and really mistreated for the American people, and how they're getting on now without qualifications. You know, when President Obama and President Clinton as well, we had an agreement that since we had 2 senators in Texas, that the Texas Democratic delegation would submit a list of candidates for our judiciary and other important appointed positions. Well, I can tell you that when Senator Cornyn came, it worked pretty well with the senators before Senator Cornyn. But when Senator Cornyn came in, he totally ignored it and ignored every list that we worked hard to vet and turn in. It is time for that to stop. And we have a candidate who will stop that, who will listen. It doesn't mean that we're going to boss her. She's not to be bossed. And that's good. She's a combat veteran. And so she's ready for public service, because it takes a great degree of stamina to stand up in the environment that she's entering. But I want to make sure that she gets there, because we need her. I want to make sure that many of our candidates who've appeared here tonight and some of the other ones also make it. It's our time. It is time for us to get a group of people who's willing to look at that Constitution and realize that it's written for all people. And it's time for us to have a little fairness and justice. Not because we are minorities, but because we are Americans. And so that's why it is time for MJ Hegar to win this race for the U.S. Senate. I'm going to do all I can. I've been on the phone talking. I've almost lost my voice, because that's the only way you can campaign now, is on the telephone. And so I wish all of the candidates well. I look forward, really forward, to getting next Tuesday over and making sure that we can enjoy the victory of all of these good Democrats. And I want TJ Hegar to be standing there ready to go to that Senate. Do you realize that we have not had a Democratic senator since my first term in Congress, and I'm getting ready to go in now. I'm ending my 28th year. So it is time for at least me have an opportunity to work with some Democrats, and I look forward to it. I'm pleased to see that the people have already given her the nomination, and we're going to take over that goal line. So I want everybody to join me to get her over that goal line. I'll yield back, because I know time is getting short.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson. We really appreciate your commitment, your service, and all that you do in representing the great state of Texas. Representing the 33rd Texas District with a congressional record that reflects his ability to take on issues we are concerned about with the environment, immigration, gun violence, voter rights, and blue-collar jobs is none other than Congressman Marc Veasey, a tireless advocate for his constituents. Congressman Veasey, welcome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that great introduction, and glad to be on here with my colleagues, Colin and Eddie Bernice Johnson, our distinguished chairwoman of the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. I'm delighted to honestly be here talking about my friend MJ Hegar. I mean, I have to tell you, Trustee Flowers, I was on back in 2018, I went down to Killeen, flew down there to go and campaign for MJ. And it was just incredible to see the enthusiasm that people in the community had for a campaign and trying to unseat an incumbent that never even bothers to show up at places in his district. And it was just an incredible show just to see the enthusiasm. I think that people could just so relate to MJ's story, particularly people in the Black community, in the households that we knocked on there. And you could just see the connection that people had with her when we were at the early voting site. And you're seeing that now. You're seeing that today. Everybody's asking about MJ and what her chances are. And I'm here to report to you that MJ, if you've been following the polls, that she has a great chance to be our next senator. Right. And the last Democratic senator that we had, as Congresswoman Johnson just stated, was our last elected was Lloyd Doggett. And so it's been a long time since we've had a Democratic senator elected from Texas in our state. And we need to do everything we can to make sure that MJ is that next senator, just because we have so much at stake. And you think about in the African-American community, if you go back to the 1980s, when we first started losing these cases that before the Supreme Court that were important to our community, whether it had to do with racial set-asides for minority business contracting purposes, whether it had to do with admissions into college campuses, whether it had to do with voting rights and redistricting, we really started losing those cases back in the 1980s, and it moved on into the 90s. And then when you think about the fact that John Cornyn voted to nominate this Judge Coney, who's now our Supreme Court Justice, taking Ruth Bader Ginsburg's place on the court, when he stood up and said that, we should not do that we shouldn't make an appointment. And they just made this appointment literally a week before Election Day. And when you think about the fact that he didn't ask any questions at all about voting rights, he didn't ask any questions about police misconduct and how the court has ruled on those cases. He didn't ask any questions about, voting rights, college admissions, all of those things that are important to the African-American community. And it just proves to me that he does not have our best interest at heart. And I know that MJ, if she was on that Judiciary Committee, that she would ask questions related to all of those things that I just mentioned, because she knows it's important to our community, and she knows that our vote is important to her campaign. And so I'm going to be doing everything that I can to help her, because I know that she's a good person. I know that just like me, that she is trying to figure out how she's going to do her work while her kids are on Zoom trying to get education. I have a ninth grader that I'm trying to make sure that he logs on to Zoom, and she has even younger kids that she's trying to make sure that they log on to Zoom.
Right.
And so she is a tireless fighter for the community, and I look forward to serving with her in the next Congress, with me on the House side and her on the Senate side, and us making some good things happen for our communities all across Texas.
Thank you, Congressman Veasey. We appreciate your support and being here with us this evening. And now serving, I want to bring on someone who is serving her constituents very well. She understands that her constituents are a number one priority. And to do so, she knows that she must work collaboratively with others, hold big businesses accountable, never lose sight of the prize, fight for the least among us, have an unwavering commitment to justice, possess a tireless spirit, be a champion for the people, protect voter rights, and stand firm on tough issues. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee's track record speaks for itself. It is reflective of the good trouble she gets into for all of us. It is a great honor and a privilege to welcome my Congresswoman, Sheila Jackson Lee.
Dr. Reagan, thank you, Flowers, and thank you so very much for those kind words. And how exciting to be able to be with just an array of stupendous candidates, elected officials. I feel good about America when I look at the list of individuals who we've been able to hear from tonight. I feel good about Texas. My colleagues, Congressman Veasey, Allred, Eddie Bernice Johnson. I'm just delighted to be able to see our state reps, our new state reps, the ability to turn the House, when I say the House, the State House, real blue, And I have not given up on the Senate myself, and that is the state Senate, and the opportunity to take the United States Senate. Wow, what a powerful, exhilarating experience. And I am propelling myself over these next couple of days to be able to give or envision what America will benefit if we can take over the Senate and, for a moment in history, elect not only a Democratic senator from the United States to the United States Senate from Texas, but a woman. I've enjoyed having the opportunity to see and listen to MJ Hegar. We have more things to talk about. I don't know whether I should give her a new name, but what I will say is that we spent Sunday together. I know that she's on the road and she spent time in many districts, but the kind of compassion and attentiveness to those that she met here in Houston, Dr. Flowers, and you were there, was a testament to the kind of outreach and leadership that will be given on behalf of this state. Those of us in the United States Congress, there are two houses in the first branch of government. We are the first branch of the Congress, the legislature. The executive is the second, and of course, judiciary the third. And so we have to work together, the two houses, House and Senate. What a powerful opportunity for Texas in terms of housing, healthcare dollars, preserving healthcare for those with pre-existing conditions, education dollars, federal education dollars, helping our universities, particularly our historically Black colleges, that always, though they shine brightly, seem to get a second step when it relates to federal funding. Work that I've had to do over the years, and particularly in settling the desegregation lawsuit at Texas Southern University, done under a Democratic presidency. So what we need is a partner. And that partner is not just for us. It's what we can bring together for the state. That's our goal, that the federal government is always a big umbrella to help the constituents all over the state. And they truly are in need. How much work we could have done had we had a Democratic senator and a Democratic Senate to bring home the HEROES bill. There would be no option for the president. Once we passed it over 100 days ago, we would have had a senator that would have said yes and been a leader, and we would have had more PPP money, more testing money, more money for education. That's what it means to elect MJ Hegar. And so I know that there are many other causes that can be embraced when we have someone who works alongside of us. It's not just a legislative process, it's working with the executive. And when we speak to the executive, the Senate or our senator and ourselves will speak with one voice. That's the power of unity. That's the power of getting more transportation dollars, of working with our experts in the House and working with the Senate. That's getting more Homeland Security dollars. But I want to dwell on one thing as I rest my case, if you will, on the importance and the victory of this exciting candidate that has offered herself to serve. I want to pause for a moment and thank her and so many of our men and women who have gone on to serve. I want to acknowledge them in the United States military. I spent a lot of time with the military. I'm privileged to have traveled to most of the war zones to say hello to Texans, not been in a war zone as a fighter or as a soldier, but as an opportunity to come as a member of the United States Congress. We need to acknowledge all those men and women that are here in Texas. We've got the largest number of veterans and certainly those who serve. I know my colleague, Congressman Garcia, who's working so hard on this issue, needs a United States senator that says no to the actions at Fort Hood, the loss of life, and the death of our precious Vanessa Guillen, being embraced by our Congresswoman Garcia. We need leadership. We need to stop that. We need to get our bases and our military treatments of all of our soldiers with decency. I can see that happening with a new leader in the United States Senate. And then, of course, we are facing the uphill battle of a new justice on the Supreme Court. That means that the legislature is going to be crucial. We have to put in place a new voting rights law to protect all of us, to protect the rights of voting. When I say all of us as citizens who have the birthright to vote, who cannot be obstructed by eliminating opportunities to count ballots legally, eliminating mail ballot opportunities legally, and to eliminate the potential of militia showing up at our ballot box over the next couple of days all over the nation. We have to put in place the kind of attitude that says that America is our people first. It is not a selfish leader first, but America first. And if we get a United States Senate and House and President with prayers and hard work, what a mighty day it will be. That's why I'm very glad to be on this call, so that legislation that we're all working on, many of you know I've introduced H.R. 40, but also the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, some of the criminal justice issues dealing with juveniles, some of those dealing with sentencing reduction, improving the life after prison, all of these things, providing for our small businesses, healthcare, and yes, the big thing that puts us into the future is our children and education. MJ Hegar, as I yield the floor, a mother, a person who understands and embraces children, a person who understands community, can move in and out of different neighborhoods of diversity and relate because people are people. We look forward to a victory that we all can claim. Not only will it be here in the United States Senate in the state of Texas making history, but I'm looking for that big headline, the New York Times, Washington Post, and all over the nation. Texas turns blue.
Yes.
What a mighty day that will be. Thank you all so very much. Let's just get out there and vote like your life depended on it and like you've never voted before. Thank you, Dr. Flowers. Thank you, TJ.
We appreciate you as always, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and there is no better way to transition to someone to bring us a message that can close out this campaign cycle than who has been rebranded by my Congresswoman as the job-creating mama. She is a fighter, and as Black folks, we've had our share of fights, and we know a fighter when we see one, and that is just who our next speaker is. MJ Hegar is leading the fight to turn Texas blue and is committed to taking that fight for working families, children, veterans, seniors, and our community to the Senate. And while she is leading the fight in DC, we must remain committed to doing the heavy lifting to support all of Texas here and our next Texas senator. So she has invited us to hold her accountable and to work alongside her, and we have accepted that invitation. So job creating mama, MJ Hegar, you have the floor.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Flowers. I got nervous that Congresswoman Jackson Lee was going to give me another charge because ever since she crowned me the job creating mama, I wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm like, oh, I have more ideas for creating jobs. It is completely my focus right now. So thank you so much for that charge, Congresswoman. I got to tell you, it is a little bit of a surreal experience to hear legends like Eddie Bernice Johnson and Sheila Jackson Lee. I feel on the one hand incredibly proud and humbled. On the other hand, I feel the weight of how much work I have in front of me and how I will not allow myself to let these amazing women and also amazing men, amazing leaders that we have had on this call down. I will not let you down. I feel strongly this moment, the weight of this moment in our history, having served in our military and taking an oath to our Constitution, seeing the threat to our Constitution in communities, whether it was the violent removal of peaceful protesters and clergy from Lafayette Square, to the hyper-partisanship in our judicial branch. The threats to our Constitution are real. But I recognize how flawed we are as a democracy, and there is beauty in that flaw. And the beauty part is in our ability to fix it. It is an imperfect democracy. We have inequality. We have systemic racism. We have challenges. We have too much money in politics. We have too many people self-interested in not serving their constituents. But then we have great leaders, like some of the ones we heard from today, and from John Lewis, and we have so many great examples to follow. So I want to thank Dr. Flowers. You've done an amazing job tonight. I wish I had 20 minutes to talk, but we're going a little long, and y'all, frankly, I can't top everything you just heard, but I do want to say thank you to Dr. Flowers, and thank you to all of our amazing guests. Thank you to Jason Collins. I think that it's so important. I try to hold John Cornyn and others responsible for their rhetoric, because the weight of their words carries water. And so when John Cornyn spreads misinformation about whether or not our kids can get COVID, people make decisions based on that. And Jason, thank you for your leadership, because frankly, people tell athletes, we don't want to hear your politics. And then when athletes do something to mess up, all of a sudden you're a role model for all of our kids, and we have to hold you accountable. And we can't have it both ways. You're either role models or you're not. And you've chosen to be a role model. So thank you for that. And I just want to take a second to lift up our down ballot candidates, because frankly, I'm committed to fighting for police reform and criminal justice reform and healthcare equality and an end to environmental racism and, access to housing and business capital and things like that. But I frankly, I can't do these things without getting more Black leaders elected. It's really the best thing that we can do. So we talked to Adrian and Kayla earlier. Kayla has become a friend, is an amazing advocate. And if she is a quarter of as effective of an advocate for our veterans and families, when she goes to the House, she's going to be a force of nature. But two that weren't here were Candace Valenzuela, who has also become a friend and who I think has a great shot to win. And Kiki Williams is in Bell County. I just got off the phone with her. She couldn't make it tonight. She got caught up at the polls, but she has been an incredible candidate as well, suffered under a lot of harassment, but she is going strong, and I think she can win. We're going to flip our state house. We're going to do a lot of good. And I just am so grateful for the example and the charge that amazing people like Eddie Bernice Johnson, Sheila Jackson Lee. I wish Marc Veasey was still on. I have a ton of football metaphors. I keep saying we're moving the ball 10 yards at a time down the field. Now it's 4th and goal, and we're gonna go for it. And I'm so sad he didn't get to hear those, but y'all will tell them for me. So y'all, thank you so much for welcoming me into the community, for asking me tough questions, for building relationships with me over the last year, and for not abandoning me when I win, and for being a part of my policy creation and understanding that I won't be able to effectively lead this amazingly diverse and rich and beautiful state without y'all and your voices. We can't win without Black votes. I'm asking for Black votes. We cannot legislate. We cannot represent without Black voices in our policy creation and without Black leaders elected to office. So thank you for all that you do. For y'all that are listening, the last thing I will say is get out and vote. Your voice does matter. If you think it doesn't, you have drank the propaganda Kool-Aid that they were hoping that you would drink. And if you don't vote, you are saying you're okay with other people speaking for you. You are okay with other people thinking that they know what's best for you. And if I know you like I think I do, you Texans and you Black Texans, that's not okay with you. It's not okay with me. And I was raised here. So that's why people are crawling over broken glass to get to the polls right now. Nothing will stop us from voting. Let's keep up this momentum. Be a force multiplier. Take 5 people with you. Nobody is going to listen to anyone saying get out the vote like they will listen to someone they know. So reach out to folks that you know and tell them how important this election is. Thank you for helping me protect our kids, protect our democracy, and actually help this country live up to its potential, this imperfect democracy, taking baby steps toward a better democracy. Thank you so much. Y'all stay safe, and I'm looking forward to working with you amazing leaders. Thank you.
I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to Christian Walker and the entire team that serves as the engine, spark plugs, and fuel for this campaign. MJ, thank you for your vision and putting together this opportunity to express how important the Black vote is to not only Texas, but our country. We cannot win without each other. Unity is the key ingredient. Thank you to all the candidates and community volunteers for your selflessness and for standing strong. We are on the verge of turning Texas blue. In this final stretch, it is time that we get our second win, dig deeper, and finish strong. Vote, donate more, make calls, send text messages, post on social media, become a poll watcher, and talk about the candidates to whomever will listen. I bid you all a good night.